Hello friends, I'm David Thompson, Chair of the Church Council for Beverley Hills Community United Methodist Church. We want to give you an update on activities and progress over the last several months, but first, let me confess, I miss you. Not getting together as a church family is like missing out on family and friends, and I suspect many of you feel the same way. Community United is our middle name. It's hard to live up to that name when we are apart, but we're trying. As you know, there are areas of the community that are reopening, and we have received detailed guidance from the task force of the Conference for Virginia United Methodist Church. We, as the church leadership, and in consultation with church staff and Pastor Deborah, have determined that we're not willing to rush back into public gatherings. It's important to us that we're all able to come together at the same time, so we don't want to do phased reopenings and that sort of thing. So for the time being, our plan is to continue with virtual services, fellowship, and other activities as a church family. We also want to update you and the community on where we are in our ministries here at the Beverley Hills Community United Methodist Church. First, I'm sure many of you are aware that we have been able to participate. We've been participating in virtual services. That's thanks to the commitment of volunteers, staff, and Pastor Deborah to put forth a service that is meaningful, creative, and insightful. We want to continue that for the coming weeks, and if you haven't checked it out yet, please do. Our virtual services are truly inspirational. Recently, we've been able to give Nick Barrett a love offering to show our appreciation for the many extra hours that he's been able to dedicate to the technology and online presence of the church. And we've been able to provide extra funds to support the community organizations we partner with here in Alexandria. Church Council voted recently to spend an extra $1,000 each for our partners Alive, Rising Hope United Methodist Church, Fair Girls, Grace Episcopal Food Pantry, and Casa Chiralagua. This is money collected for missions giving from special offerings and from giving over the recent years. I think we can all agree that right now is the time to be spending these funds to help in our community. We're able to continue being the church in this challenging time by supporting and reaching out to the many vulnerable people in our community. We anticipate these needs to continue over the coming months. We've heard from Bishop Sharma Lewis that they deeply appreciate that our church was able to continue making our full apportionment payments to the church structure, which supports conferences and global Methodist work. While we are blessed to have received a Paycheck Protection Program loan, and we are blessed to continue receiving your contributions and offerings as normal, we are still at risk during this health and economic crisis. As it continues, the community challenges will continue to grow. We ask that you please continue to discern how you can support our ministry and continue to find ways to send extra support to the outreach needs of our church. This will enable us to continue to be the hands and feet of Christ in this time that's most needed. Thank you.
Hi, it's Pastor Deborah here. Just wanted to give you some updates on where we are in light of this COVID-19 quarantine situation. You've heard from David Thompson, our church council chair, and I just wanted to give you a little more information. First, I wanted to say that we miss you so much. I miss you. Sundays are really hard because I realize after church how much I miss gathering everyone together and being a part of our community. But as much as we all wish we could be back in person, we know that we have to make sure we're making those decisions based on the reality of our situation. The new projections we have show that we will continue to have daily deaths from COVID-19 in Northern Virginia all the way through August. and that's based on predictions on what we're doing now. So we know that might change because we might have some spikes as we open things up. And so as we're seeing that the governor is moving us to stage 1 in the reopening, we know that some churches can reopen. In Northern Virginia, there are no United Methodist churches that are trying to do any in-person worship or drive-in worship at this time. And that's because of the dangers involved. We've decided and discerned from our church council and our leadership that we think it's best to wait until we can regather in person all together. Let me explain some of the restrictions that are in place if we were to try to begin gathering in person for worship in phase 2. And this wouldn't be able to happen until phase 2, but if we were to try, these are the restrictions that are in place, and this is why we are going to wait until we can all regather safely. So we would not be able to sing. We would all be required to wear masks, including me while I'm preaching. We would have to ensure that people come in their masks, so we wouldn't be allowed to distribute masks, which means if someone comes to the church and wants to worship, we would have to turn them away if they don't have a mask. We would have to tell all of our folks who are 65 and older or who have health concerns that we want them to stay home. We would need to tell children under 12 and then at another stage under 7 to stay home. And we don't feel that that's a very welcoming thing for us to do as a church, particularly at Beverley Hills Community United Methodist Church, where we value and prioritize being intentional about not just welcoming everyone, but ensuring everyone can be fully involved in the church life and not just come and show up, but really be involved and be a part of the community. So we don't want to be excluding people, and we want to do no harm. That's one of our first rules for people of faith: do no harm. And so we need to follow the rules that help ensure safety so that we don't have people getting sick and then possibly dying because they came to our church. There are strict rules around what we can do in worship. We can't have hymnals, we can't have bulletins, we can't have Bibles, we can't have songbooks, we can't have anything that we would touch and then possibly someone else would touch. No sign-in, no passing the offering plate, no communion, no food, no shaking hands. We would have to be 6 feet apart, and that has to be maintained from when people arrive outside coming into the church all the way through to leaving. And the other thing is, if anything went wrong, let's say someone took their mask off, someone starts coughing really loudly, someone decides to try to come up and hug someone, we would need to end their service and send everyone home, because we have to be strict in maintaining all of these guidelines. So you can see that these are very strict guidelines, that they almost impede worship to the point that it won't really feel like worship. And so we do not feel that we can do that at this time. We also would not be allowed to have any of our volunteers be 65 and older. We would have to have a whole team of volunteers that would serve as people that would be at the doors and actually lock the church to keep people out. So people wouldn't come in after we have our limited number of people. We would have to have people all throughout making sure that everything is moving the way it's supposed to, all the rules being followed, and then we would also be limited in the total amount of people we could have as being under 50, and we don't even believe we could have 50 people spaced 6 feet apart in our church sanctuary anyway. So we are unable and do not feel that we can follow these strict restrictions and be able to gather in person. So we're going to wait until it is safe to gather and we don't have these kinds of restrictions in place. But we will continue to have our virtual offering, our worship, and have other opportunities for fellowship and learning together. And please continue to be in prayer, and we will be adjusting and adapting as we are able and as things go along. And we thank you for the ways you're continuing to support and be in community and support one another. And we thank you for the ways that you're speaking up also right now about the racism and the injustice going on in our world and communities. And we will continue to resource you in ways that you can act and be a part of that work as well. So we miss you, we love you, and as we're reminded in the scriptures, the Spirit keeps us connected even though we are not physically together, and the Spirit continues to empower us to be the people of God even in this new time. And so I hope that you will continue to be patient and understanding with us and see that we are making the best decisions together, and And all of the churches are trying to do that. All the churches in Northern Virginia, at least the Methodist churches, none of them are having in-person worship, and they're all trying to do the same kinds of things. And we're working together trying to make sure that we're serving this community in this part of Virginia as best we can. And so we love you and we miss you, and we look forward to seeing you when we can truly be the body of Christ, all gathered and come back together in person and worship. So see you online. Blessings and love you.